Welcome again to the latest and greatest webinar that we're doing as part of my partnership with Genway. We called this Genway's Academy. And the idea of this series of webinars is to educate, teach, share whatever we can about conducting AI-led research with Genway, and also just cover a bunch of really interesting topics. And certainly this one might be the most interesting we've covered, in my humble opinion. I'm biased because I'm a relationships researcher, so yes, I'm biased, but I think relationships are a super fun topic. So I'm especially delighted to have done this research with Genway. And again, if you're watching this, if you're joining live, the big bonus you get is that you get to ask any question you have, and I'd love to respond. I'd love to hear from you, and please use the Q&A function for this. Why are you joining the session today? What are you most excited to hear about? Whether it's questions about my learnings on online dating in this case, or whether it's questions about Genway as a platform and how to conduct more AI research. I'd love to hear whatever you have for me. I'll just talk for a second about what I'd love to cover today. I always start with a very quick introduction to Genway AI in case you're not familiar with Genway as a platform. Then I'll just talk about dating in the AI era, which is the awesome topic of the day. I'm very excited to share some thoughts with you and insights that I gleaned. And then I'm just happy to deep dive into any of your live questions. Plus, I'm happy to share a bit more about my primary workflows within Genway and when you want to conduct an AI-led interview. And then there's time for Q&A. And if you're not here live and you're watching the recording, I just want to encourage you to contact me if there's anything you want to know about using Genway, about AI research. I'd love to help out and get you started. If you want to try Genway out for your own projects and your own research or your team's research, simply go to genway.ai, open a free trial account, and get started with it. Let's talk about what Genway is. Genway is an AI native, an AI agent that can conduct interviews for you on your behalf, end-to-end interviews, whether it's usability studies that you want to conduct. And this is where things get interesting because this isn't an unmoderated study, even though people aren't involved. And this isn't a moderated by a person study. These are moderated by AI usability studies that let you get a lot deeper than what you could ever get with an unmoderated test. But you're using Genway's AI agents to do the work for you. And then the second type of interview supported is contextual interviews. So basically any type of conversation, of interview you want to have with the people you serve about their experiences, either with your product or with anything else you're interested to learn about, such as in my case today, people's online dating. So that's Genway. Again, this is an end-to-end platform where you can craft your project with AI in collaboration with AI. You can then execute your project by leveraging Genway's AI agents to just run the research for you. You can either get your participants from your internal databases, or you can use Genway's built-in recruiting panel to get your participants that way. That's how I got participants for today's study on online dating. And then Genway also does the analysis and the synthesis for you. Of course, I, as a researcher, go through certain steps and augment that work with my own takes and my own work on those insights. But a lot of the work is done for you by Genway. And then you can simply send off your insights, whether it's atomic insights or your overarching summary, and send them off to whoever you're collaborating with. So that's about Genway. Okay, so I'm very excited to go back to my academic roots today. For those of you who don't know, I have a PhD in psychology, and my dissertation was about how technology is affecting romantic relationship functioning, relationship satisfaction, relationship commitment. So I was and still consider myself a relationships researcher. And I'm fascinated by online dating and just the dating in this AI era in general. I am happily married and intend to stay that way. And I'm happy about that in particular after doing this research. It is not easy out there, and it's not getting that much easier yet, I would suggest, thanks to AI, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So In this project, I was trying to get at understanding interviewees' recent online dating experiences, what platforms are they using, and especially delve into AI specific topics to explore how AI is reshaping modern romance and its impact on dating behaviors and relationships. We conducted around 300 interviews in total. In case this isn't as obvious as maybe I would think it is, conducting that number of interviews with Genway can take anything from hours to maybe a day or two. It really depends on the panel and how restricted your recruiting is. Genway can hypothetically conduct as many interviews as you wish concurrently, such that if you have enough people who are trying to be interviewed, you could conduct 300 10-minute interviews in 10 minutes and be done. So that's a pretty big difference from what we're used to in the pre-AI era. And by the way, you can also conduct those interviews in a multitude of languages, not just English, which gives you better access to a global audience. We had about 83% engagement in these interviews, which means that most people completed the interviews end to end, or 10% even extended the interviews because they wanted to share one more tidbit about their online dating life. I usually aim for interviews that are 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes at most. With Genway, I think if you want to conduct really in-depth interviews, then maybe you want to consider just doing them yourself. But for the quicker types of interviews, Genway is incredible. So that's that. Okay, is everyone ready for some insights and to talk about online dating? I hope you're excited. So the first thing that was very apparent to me is around the pros and cons of this AI online dating era. People do seem to report that better algorithms and AI intervention is leading to enhanced matching, more compatible matches, maybe better chemistry between you and your matches. But a couple of other things stood out even more to me besides the matching. The first was that the user experiences on these platforms are becoming more personalized to particular users. That's a very interesting comment to me. I think that hyper personalization is going to be, and already is, a very big trend in general. I think we expect hyper personalized content these days on all of the platforms we use, and online dating isn't any different. So that's interesting. And then AI is really helping with more efficient communication. And this won't surprise you if you use AI for your writing or to create social media posts or any other type of communication on any other type of medium. AI is making a real dent in just making it easier for us to communicate. And that's no different on online dating platforms. On the cons side, though, there are still pretty significant trust issues, I would suggest, when it comes to online dating and AI, trust in the quality of the matches and what's guiding those matches due to, in some cases, a lack of transparency, trust issues when it comes to authenticity. Because these days, so many things can be AI generated, including photos, including communication, and so many other things that people are troubled and even more troubled about catfishing than they were before. This has gone to new heights based on this research, and this is a major problem. I think people's number one complaint about online dating platforms is that people lie. As House used to say, if you watch the show House, I used to love it. Everybody lies. Everybody lies, and that's especially true on online dating platforms. AI is not helping with that, and we're going to have to maybe use certain AI tools to identify other AI tools that are faking all sorts of things. The second insight, this was also very interesting to me. A lot of people talked about the magic of AI dating, the magic of human connection, the magic of organic connection, the magic of spontaneous, somewhat unpredictable connection. I think it's something that's hard to explain, but you get it. If you're dating now, or if you remember what dating was like before you got married, AI really helps with efficiency. Everyone's talking about how AI tools within online dating platforms are helping them craft their profiles faster. They're helping them match or not match with people faster. They're helping them communicate more efficiently. And yet, there's something about the human only experience and that kind of connection that people feel they're getting less of. A loss of human touch is how many people talk about this. So, a bit of a fuzzy concept, but I do see how, though AI can make dating speedier and more efficient, it might take away something from the authenticity and that connection. We also heard a lot about how AI is still emotionally challenged. It's not great still at understanding emotional dynamics. If you ask an AI to summarize some research, then it can do that pretty well. But if you want AI to figure out certain emotional situations, then sentiment analysis is not quite where people would want it to be. And people don't view AI as helping much yet with miscommunication and with helping people communicate their emotions better or understand other people's emotions better. And that's interesting because we've had sentiment analysis around for a long time. That's not a new type of machine learning trick. Well, before AI was the concepts that people used rather than machine learning or any other concept. And yet people don't really trust it and they don't feel like it's helping them with nuanced human emotion beyond positive, negative, neutral sort of thing. But according to participants, AI is emotionally challenged. Then there's the song, Where Have All the Cowboys Gone? I'm not going to sing it to you because that's just embarrassing. But something that people are asking about is, where have all the genuine interactions gone? AI is definitely reshaping and maybe reducing authentic connections, which is deepening emotional distance in relationship. What I try to show in this illustration, and maybe you feel this way if you use AI tools for all sorts of things, is that these AI models can often take very rich, authentic, deeply personal, emotional information, and by the time they communicate it to you, as they summarize it to you, a lot is lost in that process. When it comes to relationships specifically, people want more of the genuine interaction, a bit less of the AI cookie cutter summaries. Again, it might make you more efficient at swiping left and right, but people really want that genuine interaction, and I get it. And I'm also noticing that younger generations aren't perhaps as good with genuine interactions in general because most of their interactions are mediated by platforms like Tinder and Match and OkCupid and Hinge and all of the other platforms owned by the Match Group. So definitely an issue. Until more questions come in, I call this slide the Black Mirror Dating Edition. And the big question here is AI redefining trust? On the one hand, people seem to like the idea of embracing AI because AI can help to a certain extent with detecting dishonesty, monitoring relationship behaviors, and even predictive breakups or predictive stuff in general. Imagine if you have essentially a relationship coach in your pocket telling you things like, hey, you're very close to ghosting this person, even though you like them and they like you. If you don't message them in the next hour to 2 hours, then we predict they're not going to ever talk to you again. That's pretty cool, right? That gives you all sorts of context that you might be missing. Let's do a very quick walkthrough just so you can see the slides I was showing up until now. So this is the pros and cons I was talking about. This is the missing the magic slide, AI efficiency versus the magic of human connection. This is the point around AI being emotionally challenged and those emotional dynamics being misinterpreted or miscommunicated by AI. This is the illustration of just genuine interactions, like all of that rich data coming into an AI funnel and coming out of it feeling a lot less genuine than what the original was. On the one hand, AI may have some ability to be your predictive relationship partner, your predictive coach, and to help you figure out that you're doing something wrong or you're doing something right. And in that sense, it can help you build trust with your relationship partner, which is awesome. On the other hand, people are trying to limit AI use or aren't particularly happy with AI use because they feel like if you over rely on AI, then that can lead to suspicion, which might be misplaced, and also maybe some privacy invasion. So you can imagine that whatever AI these companies, these online dating companies use, would have to have access to pretty much a lot of data that you might prefer to keep private in order to even provide these sorts of services to you. And people want to maybe do that themselves rather than completely rely on AI. They are excited about the idea of having sort of a relationship coach and someone to support them, but still concerned about what it means when AI starts to give you all of these predictive warnings and maybe it's getting it wrong. Should you follow that advice? Do you not follow that advice? How accurate is that advice? And what do these systems need to show you in terms of how accurate they think their advice is in order for you to take it? So there's a lot going on here. And this definitely feels like a Black Mirror episode where just all of our relationships are governed by AIs telling us what might happen. Is the future predetermined and how accurate is AI? So that's the Black Mirror dating edition. We have a question, by the way, from someone. So I'll just stop there for a second. What kinds of differences did you encounter among different ages or life stages of participants? And the short answer to that is I didn't actually look at age differences and life stages yet. I did limit this particular sample to 18 to, I think, 45-year-olds, or maybe a little bit older. So I did limit the ages somewhat. But outside of that limitation of the sample, I didn't look at age differences. What's cool about Genway, and I can show you this if you like a little bit later, is you can ask the system to find certain themes in the data, including themes around age or life stage. So we can go through that. A very interesting insight was around how my AI picked this for you. So basically, we're seeing a lot of AI powered personalization already happening, or people using not even the online dating platform itself, but various LLMs to help them curate date ideas and give them gift recommendations. Literally, when you log in to ChatGPT, before you log in for the first time, one of the prompts it gives you there as an example is, what gifts should I buy my partner for Valentine's Day or whatever? And we're even seeing AI generated love letters and poems. I've dabbled in that to try and make my wife happy and give her some fun Friday evening poems as we end the week and go into the weekend. She can always tell they were made by AI. I stopped with those poems for that reason. But hey, if you want to create AI generated poems for your partners, go right ahead. The thing is, I think that especially when it comes to AI generated love letters, people are noticing that they are AI generated. And there's a lot of chatter in the data, in the research about how this is taking away the sort of personal effort and spontaneity in relationships. And people use that personal effort as a metric for how much they want to be with someone. And that's a metric you can't really use anymore because the gap between idea and execution has gone down to zero. Any of us can write an incredible love letter in 2 seconds using a prompt. Maybe incredible is a strong word, but a pretty solid love letter, even if we've never written one before, in a few seconds. And if you use effort as a signal that someone really cares about you, that's gone out of the window at this point, which I find very interesting. And people are bringing this up as part of the research. And then something very important to note as we finish the insights part of this presentation is that AI has not solved the biggest pain points yet. And for people, at least the people who interviewed with Genway for my research, the three big things are misleading profiles, just people being deceptive, and AI has not solved that pain point yet. In fact, in some ways, it's even made it worse. The second problem is ghosting, which is a very painful thing to go through, just people suddenly disappearing without any explanation. And then finally, mismatch expectations or just a mismatch in general, different desires, different goals in relationships. Again, people expect in this AI era much better personalization and much better matches than ever before. And yet they're still saying that this is an issue with online dating platforms. So just to summarize my take on the TLDR of all of this, number one, there's a major tension between the personalization and efficiencies that AI offers, the magic versus the magic, the authenticity, the genuine interactions that people seek. My take on this is that users are really hoping for authenticity enhancers rather than generic relationship optimizers. They want AI tools to help them build on their genuine selves and help elevate their personal narratives. They're looking for relationship coaching. They are not looking for relationship replacement. They're not looking to be replaced by AI in finding a partner and doing the work. Second of all, AI could save many a relationship, but it could also be the ruin of relationships, and trust in AI is limited. Yes, people are excited about the behavioral nudges that could make them better daters or better partners, but they don't want to overly rely on these. They don't want to lose their mojo, to use Austin Powers language, if anyone's watched the Austin Powers movies. And they don't want false positives to ruin everything. They don't want to live in a Black Mirror episode where everything is predicted. And then finally, the biggest pain points are still there for the taking. Online deception, ghosting, disappointment with matching have not yet been solved by AI. And those are still the outcomes people are seeking to prevent, or they churn. So it's up to us to figure that out. And if anyone watching this or here live is working on online dating platforms, I hope you take these takeaways and do something with them. And again, I'm right here if you want to talk about the nuances of this research, some of the specific insights. If you want to conduct a broader survey with Genway, whatever you want to do, just be in touch on LinkedIn or via email, and I'll get in touch right back. I'm seeing a question from Lee I'd love to answer. People are excited about behavioral nudges for themselves. Did you get insight into how people feel about their potential partners leveraging behavioral nudges? That's a good question. I think that your question speaks to this tension that I identified, where on the one hand, people care about the outcomes, right? If you're, for example, looking for a serious relationship, you want a good match, you're hoping that people who are good matches succeed. And I don't think it matters to you all that much if they're succeeding a little bit thanks to AI, because ultimately, AI is going to help people in the initial stages of the match and getting to know a person. But then in the real world, at least for now, people aren't going to have these tools at their disposal, right? And I don't think that people mind that their potential partners are leveraging certain behavioral nudges because they're not going to have them in the real world. And if they're good matches and they just need a little bit of help to figure out what's going on, then that's great. We also got some chatter again about not just online dating platforms, but also various, clearly some apps are coming out or people are using ChatGPT or other LLMs to help. Relationship coaching is not a new thing, but it was typically done by human coaches. And now you can use a custom GPT, or apparently there's some apps doing this. If you like to receive flowers on Fridays, like my spouse does, and maybe I forget to do that. And so an AI is reminding me to buy flowers in order to improve my relationship. I think what my wife cares about the most is getting the flowers on a Friday. I don't think she's too bothered by whether AI caused that to happen or not. And we're getting some more questions. One question we're getting is, did any participants mention ways they vet potential partners for authenticity in this post-Gen AI world? For example, do people move to texting or video chat? Oh, sorry. Two people move to texting or video chat, but one is still using ChatGPT to formulate responses. How are datas guarding against it? Another good question. I don't know that I have a great answer to this one. One thing I did hear that I can share is that people are expecting AI to work both ways, in the sense that people are pretty happy about the little tools that they're starting to see in online dating platforms and relationship related platforms when it comes to helping them communicate better, helping them craft their profile better. Genway has a craft with AI experience, which is how you build a research project with Genway, right? And similarly, some online dating platforms clearly have a craft my profile with AI solution where you get AI support to create the best profile possible. So people appreciate that. But what they're not seeing as much of, to your question, and this was explicitly mentioned, is helping them figure out what parts of a communication are authentic versus not. And again, they're mentioning a lot about feeling like communication is a lot less genuine, a lot less authentic, and we're not being given AI tools to identify other AI. It's very meta, but basically people want AI tools to identify AI tools. In some cases, again, in other cases, to the previous question, some people care more about outcomes. I want to get flowers. I got flowers. Great. I don't care why I got flowers. I'm just happy I did. Thank you, by the way, for the questions. Keep them coming. I'm delighted to answer both AI research related questions and online dating related questions. Keep them coming. Happy to geek out about any of this. Helen, can you explain the question around? The question is, since you mentioned participants were still driven by authenticity, any mention of obviously non-AI profiles being viewed as more of a commodity? I'm not sure I understand that question. So if you could clarify that, I'd really appreciate it. This is the point where I've already answered a few questions, but if you have more questions, please share in the Q&A. I'd love to answer as many as possible. And then I'm also happy if there's a wish in the crowd to see a bit more of Genway, the platform, and how I use it and how you can use it, then I'm happy to do that as well. So please do let me know. Type out what you want to see in the Q&A. Oh, okay. So Helen's asking, profiles written without Gen AI, are they becoming more popular or getting more responses? I literally don't have an answer to that. That's a question for people who work in these companies. I'm not sure what they're willing to share, both about what AI functionality they have already built out or are building out right now, and also what data they have. Again, I'm understanding from these data that a lot of people are still using third-party external tools to the online dating platforms in order to create or optimize their profiles, I guess is the best word. So in many cases, I'm not even sure the online dating platforms, Tinder, Hinge, OkCupid, Match.com, etc. I'm not sure they have ideal tools to figure out which parts of people profiles are genuine or not AI generated versus which are. But yeah, that's a question for them more so than for me. We have a question here. Would love to hear more about the additional analysis you had to do after Genway's initial analysis. This is the Genway window. And the first thing I want to share is that even within Genway, there are at least 3 ways in which you can get to insights and analyze what you're seeing. The first way is this. It's called Project Insights. And within this Project Insights page, you get a project summary, which gives you the high-level summary of all of the insights Genway generated. And then you get a list of top insights. For example, this first insight is around communication and interaction. And these insights are coming from 290 interview responses. When I click on those responses, I can look at individual interview responses, and this is deep linking into the part of the interview where this insight came out of and where, in this case, communication and interaction was discussed. And I can also open the interview itself, and it'll deep link me to the interview and to the relevant lines within the interview where this was discussed. Marianne, to your first question, the first thing I do is I go through these high-level insights, and then I go into maybe 5 to 10 interviews, maybe more, just to have a look, see, and figure out why this insight is written as it is, do a bit of testing, make sure that we don't have any weird stuff going on. Every system, every AI system, including Genway, can have certain errors or make mistakes. And so I always like to, the human in the loop is very important, especially in the analysis and synthesis stages. That's the first type of analysis. The second type is called theme analysis, which is this. And in theme analysis, the system will generate various themes. For example, Tinder came up as a theme, right? So not everyone in this cohort and this sample is using Tinder, but Tinder was clearly mentioned often. And when I click on Tinder, let's say maybe someone here or someone watching this afterwards works for Tinder, so this might interest you. Of the people who mentioned Tinder, this is the high level theme. We then have all sorts of lower level themes that pertain to Tinder, right? Dating options, dating app comparison between Tinder and other apps, AI, swiping, reputation. If I click on reputation as an example, then below I can see that there were 18 mentions of things that have to do with reputation within Tinder. And so I can take these themes and these quotes within the themes, the subtopics within the themes, and there's so much I can do with this. And I'll also say that it's not always the case that the topics you have the most quotes in are necessarily the most interesting or the most pertinent or the most impactful for your team. So this is an example of where I would, first of all, observe what the themes are. Second of all, part of my additional analysis is to take certain sub themes and analyze them separately, either by copy and pasting the quotes into another system or just looking at the quotes within Genway and taking notes on the side, whatever it might be. If I feel like a certain theme is missing, I can add a theme of my own. I can insert an example question that would represent this theme, or an example statement that would represent this theme, create a theme, and then get a bunch of insights, assuming the theme is relevant, that I generated. So that's an additional analysis I can do if I wanted to. In this particular case, by the way, I didn't actually generate any extra themes. I just added some of my perspective on the existing themes. And then just to finish up, the last way you can analyze data with Genway, and clearly I did not use this in this project because you can tell by the tags they're not particularly relevant, is to use tags. Basically, we can tag conversations, and this is not keyword-based tagging, it's semantic tagging. So we can create as many tag groups as we want and as many tags as we want. For example, I can create a tag around reputation, a tag group, sorry, around reputation. And then I can add specific tags within that. For example, trust issues or something. And then I can auto tag interviews, and the system will go through every single interview it conducted and add to these tags and to make sure that you can access all of the relevant parts of conversations where these topics came up. And so you can do a bunch of more in-depth analyses by generating these tags. So these are some kind of generic tags that Genway creates for your team around UX research, growth, product, etc. But you can play about with all of these and create your own. So I hope that that gives you the answer to that, Marianne, but please let me know if it didn't. And then we answered some more questions. Again, we are technically out of time, so if you want to go, feel free to go. I will not be offended, but I am going to stay here until the last question is answered. I'm delighted to talk about this stuff, so please feel free. And thank you again, Helen, for all of your questions. Angela's asking, what are the pros and cons of unmoderated interview method? Were you able to get in-depth answers and uncover layers of why? Angela, first of all, a small correction. These are not unmoderated interviews. These are moderated by AI interviews. And the quality of responses we get is pretty damn good, I would suggest. It's certainly a lot better than what I would ever get from a survey. And it's a lot more comprehensive than what I would get if I interviewed people, which would therefore limit me to what? 5 people, 10 people, 20 people? How much time can we typically invest in any single project when it comes to interviews? If I'm trying to get a comprehensive picture of how people are dating in the AI era across different platforms, across different ages, to the question before, across different countries, then I have to interview hundreds of people, and I cannot do that as a human. The quality is pretty damn good. And something I always share about AI systems in general, not just Genway, is that today, right now, is the worst it's ever going to be. These systems are getting better incredibly quickly. And whatever Genway is capable of today, it's hard to even imagine what it'll be capable of in 3 months, in 6 months. And again, I'm not just talking about Genway here, I'm talking about any AI system. The advancements are rather astonishing. I still believe that in certain cases, it's a good idea for humans to interview humans. I just want to go on the record saying that. I don't think it's always appropriate for AI systems to interview people. But I am very happy with the insights I got out of this project. And there are still all sorts of ways in which you can influence what is asked and make sure that the system is asking critical questions for you. One thing I would suggest, Angela, is check out Genway's YouTube channel and specifically check out a video I made about the Craft with AI experience for contextual interviews, because that's where I share all sorts of ways in which you can control, determine in a way what Genway asks participants and how the interviews go. You have a lot of control over what goes down in the interviews. Thank you again for that question. I really appreciate it. There's also a question around who do I reach out to look into the raw data later? I'm interested in the depth and flow of questioning and the types of responses people give. I don't know that I can share the raw data from this research. I can look into that. But if you want to jump on a one-on-one call, just you and me, Angela, or with your team, I can definitely walk through some of the interviews with you and showcase some stuff. Exporting the entire data and sending it over is not something we planned to do in this webinar or in general. Please forgive me for that, for all sorts of reasons. So that's that. Again, please get in touch over LinkedIn or wherever works for you if you'd like to walk through this in more detail. Angela, thanks again for all your feedback. Please be in touch with me or with Natan. We'd be happy to help. Thank you so much for joining this webinar. I really appreciate all of your questions, your interest. I hope this was fun. We're going to do a lot more of these, not necessarily about dating, but about other things as well. If you have any questions, concerns, things you want to know and you didn't get answers here, whether you're here live or watching this recorded, please contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, Noam Segal, not hard to find me, or at noam@genway.ai. Feel free to email me there. And then go check out genway.ai if you want to just try this out yourself. Alrighty. Thanks a bunch. Have a good night, everyone, and see you next time. Cheers.